HOA tried to bulldoze my pool. They didn't know Navy SEALs train here. Something was off from the moment I stepped outside that morning. Birds fell silent as if they sensed a coming storm. The horizon loomed with an uneasy hush, and deep in my gut, a warning bell rang. I had no idea that the well-kept secret hidden behind my humble backyard fence would be threatened by powers greater and more calculating than I ever imagined. After months of building and perfecting my backyard pool, I was about to discover that my very own HOA had a far darker agenda. Everything was about to change in unimaginable ways. No one was prepared. Before we dive in, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. If you're excited about this story, let us know. If you enjoyed the video, press 1. If not, press O. Your feedback really inspires me to gather more uplifting and meaningful stories. Ever since I moved into the suburban community of Laurel Ridge, I thought I had found my perfect slice of American life. Rows of pristine lawns, symmetrical hedges, and the promise of peaceful evenings under the stars beckoned me to this small corner of the country. The people seemed friendly enough at first, waving from across the street or stopping by to chat about trivial neighborhood happenings. But as the months passed, I sensed a tension simmering beneath their polite smiles, a tension that pointed toward the local homeowners association. Rumors floated that their rules were unbending and punishment swift, yet I never imagined their reach could extend into my own backyard sanctuary. That is, until the day I discovered the anonymous letters. 3 crisp letters, each typed in an eerie, formal font, arrived in my mailbox over the course of a single week. No return address, no hint of the sender. They accused me of violating the HOA bylaws, referencing obscure regulations that I had never encountered in the paperwork given to me when I purchased the house. They claimed my new in-ground pool disrupted the visual harmony of the neighborhood and threatened to devalue local property. Each notice was more threatening than the last, ending with the promise of serious consequences if I failed to comply. Confusion gave way to indignation, then to outright dread. What could be so wrong about a pool in a backyard that no one else could even see? What my neighbors and presumably the HOA didn't realize was that my pool had a purpose beyond mere leisure. Working as a civilian contractor for the Navy, I often hosted a close-knit group of retired SEALs who used my pool for specialized endurance routines. The unique shape and depth of the pool, inspired by training setups found at the Coronado Naval Amphibious Base, made it perfect for underwater exercises, breath-holding drills, and simulated rescue scenarios. These men had risked their lives for the country and were now dedicated to passing on their skills to younger recruits on weekends. The neighborhood saw only a fancy pool, but inside its waters lay a lifeline for some of our nation's finest warriors. I tried to reason with the HOA board, contacting them to explain the pool's significance and the professional nature of our gatherings. Yet, every phone call reached an icy receptionist who refused to divulge the board members' identities. Each email went unanswered, and every letter I sent was met with a generic form response instructing me to dismantle any structures that did not comply with aesthetic standards. It was as though I was fighting a faceless entity with a singular mission to eradicate anything that deviated from their notion of a pristine neighborhood. At first, I hoped this was just a misunderstanding, something I could clarify, but soon events took a sinister turn. Late one evening, long after the sun had slipped behind the horizon, I spotted a figure lurking near my backyard fence. Instantly alert, I flicked on the floodlights, illuminating a hooded individual who bolted down the street. My heart thundered in my chest as I realized someone was trespassing, possibly trying to get a closer look at the pool. The next morning, fresh footprints trailed around the perimeter, and a series of blurred tracks led straight to the gate latch. A sense of alarm settled over me, but I couldn't shake the certainty that this was no mere curious passerby. The HOA was watching, and they were escalating. My suspicions were confirmed when a black SUV with tinted windows began to circle the block with eerie frequency. Every day around lunchtime, I'd catch a glimpse of it idling at the intersection, then slowly rolling by my house. One afternoon, I decided to confront whoever sat behind the wheel. I walked out onto the sidewalk, heart thumping wildly, but by the time I approached, the SUV sped away. A chilling question gnawed at me. How far would these individuals go to enforce their petty regulations? At night, my mind conjured worst-case scenarios, anonymous lawsuits, property liens, or even malicious acts of vandalism. Yet, even in my most paranoid moments, I never envisioned the plan they would soon set in motion. Then came the official summons. Delivered by a stony-faced courier, it spelled out an ultimatum on costly legal parchment. The HOA demanded that I fill in my pool within 30 days or face immediate legal action and potential demolition. My hands shook as I read the carefully constructed paragraphs. The letter cited archaic neighborhood clauses about uniformity and property lines, claiming my pool extended inches beyond acceptable boundaries. They threatened daily fines that escalated into astronomical figures, culminating in the promise of direct removal if I failed to comply. The phrase direct removal sank into my thoughts like a cinder block, dragging me toward anxiety and despair. A few of my neighbors quietly confided in me that the HOA president was a figure rarely seen but deeply feared. Rumors swirled that she controlled a network of informants' neighbors who reported every minor infringement, hoping to stay on her good side. The president's name was whispered with trepidation, Gwendolyn Marsh. Some said she had old money, fueling her desire to shape the neighborhood into her personal vision of suburban perfection. Others claimed she had an uncanny knack for discovering people's weak points and using them to coerce cooperation. But no one could confirm anything. She was a phantom queen ruling from the shadows. Amid the looming threat, my friends in the Navy community stepped in, led by Commander James Jim Hawthorne, an old friend who had served multiple tours. This group of retired SEALs was not about to let an overzealous HOA bully me. Jim had contacts in local government, legal experts who volunteered to review the bylaws. We discovered that the HOA's board had recently updated certain regulations without proper member vote, effectively bending rules to target my property. Jim's team pored over each clause, determined to find any loophole to keep the pool intact. Their unwavering support bolstered my resolve. I wasn't alone in this fight. In the midst of our research, an unexpected ally emerged, the local mail carrier, Mr. Samuel Johnson. He had long, graying sideburns and a warm demeanor that put everyone at ease. Over the years, he had delivered countless certified letters and warning notices. He confided that the HOA's tactics often skirted the boundaries of legality. He'd seen families harassed over garden gnomes, children's basketball hoops forcibly removed, and even one elderly couple threatened for planting daisies. "They've pushed too far this time," he muttered, slipping me a note. Inside was a Xeroxed page of the original community charters, suggesting that certain expansions were permitted if deemed beneficial to community welfare. This was the seed of a plan. We decided to file an appeal to the city planning office. With Jim's legal contacts, we compiled evidence showing that the pool was used for advanced training, which could potentially support local emergency preparedness. If a catastrophic event occurred, flooding, search and rescue situations, having trained experts with specialized facilities nearby could be invaluable. The local council was receptive, at least in theory. The hearing was scheduled for a Monday morning at City Hall. We pinned our hopes on a fair ruling, one that would protect my property rights and expose the HOA's intimidation. But as the hearing date approached, a series of bizarre incidents shook our confidence. First, a plumbing contractor showed up unannounced, insisting he had a work order to disconnect my water supply. According to him, an authorized community representative had requested the service. The timing was suspicious. Thankfully, a quick call to the utility company cleared up the confusion, and the contractor left, but the message was clear. The HOA wanted to cripple my resources. Soon after, my internet and cable mysteriously went down, forcing me to rely on spotty cellular data. The final straw came when I discovered a dead pigeon in my mailbox with a note taped to its leg, "Stop resisting." It was a gruesome warning, and it stoked my anger to a searing point. As fear mounted, so did my determination. Word of the harassment spread among my friends. Jim assembled a rotating watch of ex-SEALs who discreetly patrolled the perimeter of my home, ensuring no intruders could sabotage the pool. Late one evening, I observed them practicing silent takedown maneuvers in the water, their bodies slicing through the moonlit surface with impeccable discipline. The pool had become an emblem of defiance, a fortress where courage gathered. Despite the hostility swirling around us, we found moments of levity, like the time one of the guys, a 6'3" giant of a man, nearly screamed when a stray cat jumped out of the bushes. Yet, behind every laugh lingered the tension of an imminent showdown. The hearing day arrived with an oppressive humidity that clung to the city streets. City Hall's grand marble facade was packed with onlookers, neighbors, reporters from the local newspaper, and a handful of curious bystanders. I was flanked by Jim, his legal team, and 3 of the most imposing SEAL veterans you could imagine. On the other side sat a row of HOA representatives, each wearing matching navy blue blazers. In the middle sat Gwendolyn Marsh, her platinum hair pinned into an immaculate bun. She locked eyes with me for a fleeting second, and I felt a chill slither down my spine. The tension in the chamber crackled like electricity. The city officials listened intently as our side laid out the facts. We showed photographic evidence of the training sessions, testimonies from local emergency response coordinators who stated how beneficial it was to have specialized personnel in the community, and historical documents that contradicted the HOA's claims. Gwendolyn, in turn, argued that we had built a military installation in a quiet neighborhood, an eyesore that undermined community values. Her voice was calm, measured, and chillingly persuasive. At one point, she presented manipulated photos, making the pool appear overrun with barbed wire and warning signs. I couldn't decide which was more alarming, her cunning or the realization that she had infinite resources to wage this battle. For a moment, it seemed the ruling could go either way. The panel of city council members huddled together, whispering among themselves. My heart pounded like a war drum, and sweat beaded on my forehead. Then, at the critical juncture, an unexpected interruption occurred. The heavy wooden doors at the rear of the chamber burst open, revealing a uniformed representative from the local fire department. He rushed forward, apologizing for his late arrival. With resolute authority, he addressed the council. I can confirm that these men have collaborated with our department to conduct water rescue drills. Their facility has proven instrumental in refining our capabilities. Without it, our training would be severely limited. His words hung in the air like a protective shield around me. The shock on Gwendolyn's face was palpable. She sputtered, attempting to discredit the fire department's testimony, but the official remained firm. He detailed how, through the generosity of my Navy friends, local firefighters gained invaluable hands-on experience with rescue techniques they normally couldn't practice. The tide was turning, and the council members took notice. Stunned murmurs rippled through the audience. Gwendolyn's smooth veneer cracked, and for the first time I saw genuine desperation in her eyes. Sensing the momentum shift, our lawyer pressed on, citing the original community charters that permitted residents to maintain structures serving a broader public good. It was a triumphant moment, one that vindicated our efforts and threatened to topple Gwendolyn's empire of fear. The council ruled in our favor, granting a special waiver for the pool. Applause and cheers erupted, and my knees nearly buckled with relief. Reporters swarmed, thrusting microphones toward me and Jim, asking how we felt about defeating the HOA's overreach. We offered polite statements about unity, community service, and the importance of supporting local heroes. Yet, even amid the celebration, I noticed Gwendolyn slip out a side door, her phone pressed to her ear, a storm of rage brewing on her face. Deep down, I knew she was not done, not by a long shot. She had lost the legal battle, but not necessarily the war. True to form, the HOA responded with a vicious final gambit. Barely a week had passed when a convoy of trucks rumbled down my street before dawn. I woke to the growl of engines and the clang of heavy machinery. Leaping out of bed, I rushed outside to find construction vehicles lined up along the curb. The foreman, a burly man in a reflective vest, informed me they were under orders from the HOA to remove an unauthorized structure. My heart thundered in my ears. I brandished the city council documents, shouting that my pool was protected. The foreman shrugged. We have a direct contract. Unless the first see a court injunction, we're starting demolition. My mind raced with panic and fury. Within minutes, a bulldozer lurched toward my fence, its metal blade glinting menacingly in the early morning light. But it didn't get far. From the corner of my eye, I saw a movement, 5 figures in black shirts and combat boots sprinting from the backyard, stepping in front of the bulldozer. It was Jim and his SEAL buddies, refusing to yield. They stood like statues, unwavering, their expressions carved from stone. The foreman shouted, threatening to call the police. Jim calmly produced a phone of his own. "Go ahead," he said. "I've got the city council on speed dial. Let's get them all down here, right now." It was a tense standoff, and the neighborhood began to wake and gather, eyes wide with shock. Gwendolyn appeared, flanked by a small retinue of HOA lackeys. Her normally composed features twisted in frustration. She demanded that the SEALs move, threatened legal repercussions, and even hinted at forging harassment claims. But they stood firm. Meanwhile, I frantically dialed city officials, attorneys, and local reporters, urging them to rush to the scene. An hour dragged by with arguments flung back and forth. The foreman paced beside his trucks, uncertain whether to proceed. Eventually, 2 police cruisers arrived, lights flashing. The officers stepped out, sizing up the tense gathering. Gwendolyn seized the moment to spin her narrative, claiming we were illegally blocking a lawful operation. She almost had them convinced until the city council representative finally arrived with a signed cease and desist order. The order landed in the foreman's hands like a thunderbolt. He swore under his breath and waved his men back, but Gwendolyn was not so easily deterred. She unleashed a tirade at the city representative, accusing him of partiality and corruption. In a move that stunned everyone, the representative calmly read out the council's official stance on her repeated violations of proper procedures. He listed each instance where she had bypassed community votes, falsified documents, and threatened residents. The onlookers gasped in disbelief. Then, in a final blow, he announced that the city intended to launch a full investigation into the HOA's practices, which could lead to the dissolution of its board. Gwendolyn's face blanched. In a moment of sheer desperation, Gwendolyn tried to snatch the cease and desist order from the representative's hands, as though destroying the paper would undo its power. The officer nearest her stepped forward and cautioned her to stand down. She hurled insults, her composure unraveling at breakneck speed. A hush fell over the crowd as the officers exchanged glances, then gently took Gwendolyn by the arm and led her to a squad car. She screeched that she was the victim of a conspiracy, that the entire neighborhood would regret this, but her voice faded as the door slammed shut. The mighty queen of Laurel Ridge had fallen, consumed by her own malice. Over the next few weeks, the neighborhood underwent a transformation. Once word of Gwendolyn's arrest spread, many residents found the courage to speak out about the intimidation they'd endured. Old grudges were aired, hidden complaints surfaced, and soon the police and city auditors were knee-deep in investigations. Several of Gwendolyn's close associates resigned from the board in an attempt to dodge scrutiny. The newly formed interim HOA committee took a more amicable approach, promising to review controversial rules and ensure they aligned with actual community interests. My phone buzzed nonstop with apologies from neighbors who admitted they had been too scared to intervene before. In the end, the pool that had drawn so much ire became a symbol of triumph against tyranny. The city recognized the role my friends played in local rescue training and even funded additional enhancements for advanced drills. Neighborhood kids were invited for supervised swimming lessons with my Navy pals, forging bonds previously unthinkable in this fractured community. Standing on my now secure deck, I felt a swell of gratitude for the allies who had stepped forward in my hour of need. The house, the pool, and the community itself would never be the same, but the change was for the better. Peace settled over Laurel Ridge like a long-awaited sunrise, and for the first time in months, I felt truly at home. Thank you for following this extraordinary journey of hidden dangers and unexpected heroes. The ferocity of one HOA's obsession collided head-on with the unwavering determination of a few Navy veterans, and justice finally prevailed. If this story taught us anything, it's that genuine community thrives on solidarity, not fear. Every voice matters, and sometimes standing firm against overwhelming odds unearths a strength you never knew you had. As you reflect on these events, consider the power of unity in your own neighborhood. When challenges arise, remember that perseverance and integrity can overcome even the darkest plots. If this saga gripped you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible real-life stories that inspire and astonish. Stay tuned always.